So hello, everyone. We are joined today by two very great guys, Federico Pastor and Norman Hamilton. So all of you most likely know Federico on an individual basis by now, but Norman is a performance analyst who has used Zoom charts for social network analysis, and he is the provider of the data set for this month's challenge. So without further ado, I'll give the floor to each of the guys respectively to give their small intro about themselves. So Norman, floor is all yours.
Oh, am I first, am I?
Yeah.
Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for participating. I'm really excited by the opportunity and, to see what everyone's going to be able to generate from the information. Just a brief background. I'm a performance analyst, but I originally came from a social work background and worked many years as a social worker. Then I got into data analysis and spent many times working for central government in rolling out software in terms of business changes, and I became an analyst. And for about the last 6 years, I've been focusing on social network analysis, understanding how groups of people interact and how that impacts on potentially criminality and other aspects of their life. My current role is really around understanding or providing data that can safeguard young people at risk of getting involved in criminality and being exploited. So the data that has been provided really is about understanding not more than just the number of crimes and when they're happening, about trying to find unique ways of looking at the data and seeing how that can provide insights into preventing offending, disrupting people who may be using other young people to go and commit crime, and also safeguarding those young people who potentially may be at risk of committing crime. Earlier on, just very, very briefly, earlier I was, when I was talking to Crispin, we were talking about, the cost of an offence, because usually when we look at offending, we just look at it in isolation. There's a victim and there's a perpetrator. If the perpetrator gets caught, they go to prison, and then it's over and done with. But what we need to understand is that when it comes to offending, the tentacles of one crime sometimes spread much further than just the victim and the perpetrator. There are the families involved. There's a social impact, the impact on the community. So the kind of work that I'm involved in really tries to address, the wider impact of offending behavior and criminality within a given community, and how that impacts everyone, not only the perpetrator and the perpetrator's family, not only the victim and the victim's family, but the wider society. I think I'll shut up then. Thank you.
No, thank you, Norman. That was very insightful and very, very valuable to everyone in attendance. So, Federico, maybe a few words on your side.
Thank you, Norman. Federico Pastor, FP20 Analytics. Thank you guys for being here today. You don't know about this, but I did a lot of work with law enforcement authorities in many of the areas that Norman is referring to. The price paid by the victim, the family, sometimes it's hard to believe. We can see on telly, we can see on news, but the reality is a lot, much harder to swallow. I think images and videos of victims, believe me, is beyond what you can see in any movie, no matter how hard that movie it is. So I am really, really excited to have this data set. Through the webinar today, I will try to give you different focus on how to tackle the challenge. As Norman said, we don't want you just to give me the numbers. That is quite easy. They are there. Okay. I want you to pick an angle. Okay. And study that angle and see how that can help the analysis. That is for me, Christoph.
Okay, so thank you, Federico. So should we touch more on the data set itself, what it contains, and what's the story that will be told, let's say, even through Norman's actual use case of maybe it would even make sense to ask Norman how this would be used once all is said and done and the use case is, let's say, evolved to something better than it is right now. So how could this be used on a day-to-day basis, and what are the problems that would be really addressed with a better data analysis through this type of report?
So a lot of the work that we do kind of focuses on three kind of, probably more than three, but there's a safeguarding element. So because sometimes the people who are perpetrating the offence are also victims themselves, and that's what we need to understand. So once we understand, if we can understand that, then we're able to put in place safeguarding measures to hopefully prevent them from being further victimized by people who might be manipulating them or exploiting them. There's also an area called disruption. How can we disrupt people who are organizing and perpetrating it? What can we put in place to disrupt that? And hopefully within the data, you may be able to see patterns where we can say, right, something is happening in some way, shape, or form, that there might be a way in which we can put something in place, and that doesn't necessarily have to always be law enforcement. There are loads of other ways in which potentially we can disrupt perpetrators or people who want to victimize victims. And then there's also about once we identify perpetrators and victims, what are the next steps? And that might be out of scope, and that not necessarily within your remit, but it's just about you guys thinking, right, once we identify these patterns, and it could be locations. If we identify a location, what can we put in place in the location? Sometimes we know that certain types of offence happen in certain places. What can we do to make that place a safer area? So there are loads of different ways potentially in which the data can be sliced and diced to tell a new story effectively. Mm-hmm. About what's happening in a particular area or to particular individuals or around specific types of offences, because sometimes you might see increases in certain types of offending based on other circumstances or based on other factors, easy availability of certain things or a demand for certain things. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to kind of cloud it too much, but I was just thinking off the top of my head, that's the kinds of different angles potentially that we could look at.
A lot of potential impact that can be had with like a correct analysis. But from what we understand so far, right, so this is also to detect potential areas of problems and potential areas of concern before they actually take place, right? So some trend analysis, like crime analysis before it actually happens, is also something that could theoretically be very, very valuable. Some patterns, trends, identifying some perpetrators, specific people in specific locations. So all of that is something that can be analyzed. And then this intelligence is used with further activities to prevent crime before it actually happens, right? And that's the social impact that this whole reporting can have in a real life scenario. Correct me if I'm wrong, Norman.
Absolutely. The data provides people with a strategic framework in which they can implement something. So they're not operating off of intuition, guesswork. There is quantitative and sometimes qualitative data that supports whatever they're implementing. So you can go to, if you're thinking of it very simplistically, just on a law enforcement level, the police can say, right, we are focusing on this because we have information, intelligence, and data that supports our resources, because everything is resource driven. And obviously what we don't want to do is focus on something expending a lot of resource money without that being informed by something substantial, or something that is data led.
Yeah. So it all boils down to making better data-driven decisions to allocate the resources, which are a finite amount, within the police, schooling departments, to allocate those resources in the most effective way that has the best impact on the end game, right, and then the long-term results.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
you
in the data have all that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main something that Norman has explained very well, what we want to achieve is the prevention disruption of this organization. We don't want the crime to happen. If we can avoid that, okay, we are winning the battle. One, by preventing, we are there. We are looking at what is going on. Federico, how do we looking at? Well, you got the day and the time the crime are committed. Is that weekend? It's Monday? It's Saturday? What kind of crime happened over the weekend? What kind of people? What we have the age of the individuals, the offenders. What profile can I create? I want you to guys open your mind and focus to the people listening and thinking and participating. I want you to go beyond giving Norman and Federico the data that we already know, because it's there. That last year we have an increase of crime of 3.5%, for example. That is easy to know. I want you to tell me what crime has seen more increase and where and what time they're happening. So the police and the social services can allocate the resources to cover that problem.
Yes.
Okay.
Agree. Yes.
All that is in the data. If you go to the crime table, in the crime table, you have crime day and time. I have already separated day and time in two different columns. Sorry, I already have put my time in a 24-hour shift or pattern, and then I have gone from morning, afternoon, evening, and night. So my analysis can be a bit more. If I go to the granularity, I also present a problem. I cannot tell the police where everything is happening at 13:45. But if I tell them for 2 to 4, they can have two people there sitting down in front of wherever it is for that not to happen. Okay? And then we have another table that is fantastic. It's called people. And in people, guys, you have age. Well, you have a date of birth. From the date of birth, you can get the age. From the age, you can group. You can say young adult or adult, whatever where you want to put it, or age ranges. Okay? And you go ethnicity, you go gender. Are they male? Are they female? Do they female commit crime too? Check it out. It's incredible how much information you can get from the data set. And that all this information is collated by people like Norman, trying to make sense of that, and then pass the information to the second layer of operation, tell them, listen, this is what is going on, go there, go there, go there, okay, because that is happening now, or in the evening, or in the nighttime. Believe me, the data set is so rich, guys. Pick out your angle. You might want to study two different types of crime. You might concentrate in sexual crime or sexual violence, or mugging and robbing, something that affects you, or something that you perhaps have seen or happened to you, and focus and tell us where it happened more often, who commit the crime more often, at what time it happened, okay, and what day of the week. You have all that information in the data set. It's fantastic.
So just to add, and remember, we have like longitude and latitude as well, I think, in the data. So, because location, you've got the trifactor. You've got where, when. You don't have how, but you have who. So, they're kind of key elements to that. And just really very, very quickly, the prevention element can't be underestimated, because, I think roughly, if you spend £1 to prevent, for every pound you spend preventing a crime, you probably save about 100 times more, to solve and everything that follows from that. So the real, the problem always is that if a crime doesn't happen, how do we know we've prevented it? But what we have is the data of what's previously happened, and that can be compared to what's currently happening. So we do have some good indicators.
Mm-hmm. And Norman, could you add like some real life numbers about how much it costs to actually, let's say, have a murder investigation, or approximately, right? So just so the people have a rough estimate of like what are the real costs of something like this, even if it's a guesstimate.
Well, I think rough estimates, if you quantify, and this is on the very highest level. This is forgetting about, on the cost in social or people's terms and the trauma and all of that kind of stuff. But, just from the perpetrator's perspective, so you apprehend the perpetrator. For a murder, you're going to be remanded in custody, so you have to house that person until their trial. You have to provide that person with legal representation. You then take up numerous appearances in court from plea, pre-trial, pre-trial disclosure. Then you have, not only do you have a defense solicitor, you have a prosecutor, all of their costs, reading all of that. Then you employ a jury to listen for a trial for maybe a murder. Typically, it's going to take at least 2 to 3 weeks, and that's if it's a simple case. Mm-hmm. Bearing in mind, throughout that time, the person who is alleged, at that time we don't even have a perpetrator because that person is assumed innocent. So we're holding that person. If you have a guilty conviction, then you got all of the sentencing, and then that person, then you have to house that person for, minimum life sentence would be from 15 to 25 years potentially. You keep them for 25 years, and then obviously that person can appeal that sentence and say that, so rough estimates, you're talking £1.5 million. That's rough estimates, and that's if it goes smoothly.
Yeah,
and then we're not taking into consideration, the cost to the perpetrator's family. You may have taken the child, the life of the child, the impact to the parents. You may have taken the life of the person who's working. You may have lost an income. The cost. So people focus on, apprehension. We've got to catch these criminals. I'm more focused on let's prevent it from happening in the first place.
100%. I don't think people, Norman, sometimes think about all these costs. What happened after?
Yeah.
What happened after? You got lawyers and you are doing crime. You have high value lawyers that charge you tons of money for an hour in court.
Oh, absolutely.
And you got barristers, you got the lawyer, translator, interpreters. If the person is for a foreign country, the business of prosecuting is huge. The cost is huge, and that money is not, the government doesn't pay that money. Well, the government pay that money, but that pay comes from our taxes.
Yes, absolutely.
You pay taxes, that money comes from you. So prevention is actually, and disruption is the most important part of criminology. If you want to put it that way.
Yeah, and England in prisons more people in Europe than anywhere else. I think it's second only to America per population, and it has the poorest outcomes. So it has one of the highest recidivism rates. So I say that just to kind of for people to understand how complicated it is. And I think sometimes we're thinking you catch someone, you lock them up, and that's the end of the story. It isn't. 80 to 90% of people who go to prison come out. What happens when they come out? So it's a long story. So if we can, from a perpetrator's perspective, we can disrupt them and prevent them from committing the offence. It's a benefit to society, and it's the benefit to the person themselves, as long in addition to the potential benefit it has to any kind of potential victim. So, yeah, it's a very complicated area, but all areas are complicated. I don't need to tell you guys that. So,
even socially, it's not just the victim that suffered, the offender family suffered too.
Oh, absolutely.
So we need to think about, he did it, well, just pay for it. But it's okay, but I didn't do anything. I'm the wife or the husband or the brother or the son or the daughter, and I had to pay for it too. It's complex, and sometimes we don't think about that too much. But today, we have now a data set that can actually help.
Absolutely.
Okay, so all your visuals, or your map relocation, or the information, most probably will end up in some report from Norman helping him to do this what we are talking about. So it's a brilliant, it's a win to win. Even if you don't win the challenge, I don't care winning the challenge. If you are able to produce something relevant that is useful for Norman, we have achieved our target.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd be eternally grateful, and I think you said it exactly right, Federico. It really is about you brought it around full circle. So how can this data impact on all of that? How can that reduce the blight that that criminality poses on many people in society? So it has real life implications.
And I, as all my participants, have a proper look, study the data set, pick up the angle we mentioned before, and focus on that. Don't get distracted by the other data. Just get your data, focus, hide the data you are not going to use, okay, and focus on that. Because you will see that there is one incident that has 38 people involved. And now you're thinking, 38 people involved in one incident? Then you discover that it's social disobedience. Well, probably there was a Sunday, it's a football match, and two clubs start fighting each other, okay, or a fight in a pub, or something like that. Check that data set. It's unbelievably good to check out. Hey, we sometimes complain that data challenges, we don't have real data set because the data set we use are from different places, but they are not 100% real. This data set has been masked because of security reasons, but it's a real data set to the full extent. Use it. Show us what you can do. And I know there are very good people here listening to us that probably will present a fantastic report. Guys, bring it on. Help Norman to fix. Try to the crime will never be fixed.
No.
But try to minimize it and prevent it as much as possible.
Absolutely.
So we're all very excited to see what will be built with the data set that Norman has supplied to us. And we also have some complimentary webinars to assist with the technical aspects of the report development process, answer some of the questions that some people might have. So we are here to assist you in order to provide, the best outcome for everyone that participates in this challenge. Because who knows, maybe your idea is actually implemented, goes widespread, and is used internationally to scope out criminals and prevent crime before it happens. You might become the new leader or the new voice of reason once it comes to this type of analysis. So this is, I think this is like a very powerful challenge, which is going to be challenging, but that's the whole point of it, right? It's called a challenge. It needs to be challenging because there's so much stories to tell. We want to see what you can bring to us. And, Federico, you feel free to add anything on top, but I think that's pretty much it from my side.
My tip for you guys is profiling. Pick up the people and try to profile them. What ethnicity they are made, what age, what area is more used by these people. Can you see cluster of crime in that area with this profile? Then we are most probably looking at an organized crime organization or a gang, okay? Because you have seen many crimes committed at the same place all the time and more than one people involved. Profiling is a very, very interesting area. And I think profiling will help Norma immensely. Another good point is allocation of resources. The police need to be allocated. They need to be put here and there. For that to be effective, they need to be or to know where they can be deployed best. And the same from social services. You have a team of social services waiting basically for something to happen to jump onto, okay, the thing and help this rape victim or prostitution victim or whatever it is. And I think allocation and profiling is very important. And the data set gives you everything you need up to the minute if you want to where, when these incidents happen. So don't get crazy and focus.
Fantastic.
Yes. So I will also add a small form to the chat for everyone to fill out, where you can tell us about your initial feeling about this challenge and the information presented and what we can improve for further iterations of similar challenges. That's pretty much it from my side. And let's give the floor to the chat. So does anyone have a particular question that we could try and address right now? So let's give everyone a few moments to think about this and type something in the chat.
Tony is one of my ambassadors in the group. Is telling that the idea of maybe providing a mobile form of the report will be interesting because people can look, police officer or whoever can look in the phone at the report too. It's a great idea, Tony. I don't think the police have much time to look at the phone when they are smashing someone from Norte, but
no, but I think Tony's right. I mean, a lot of work is actually done monitoring telecommunications and yes, so that that would have been that would. I mean, I think in terms of our data set, we don't always get that from, because I don't work for the police, so the police are limited in what information they would always share with us. So, but I know that they do a lot of work networking, and they've got technology that maps all of those telephone calls.
I think, Norman, what the question and what the implication of Tony was that it could be a mobile view of a Power BI report. So it's just something that you could potentially use on a tablet or mobile phone.
Oh, sorry. I thought
but yes, so idea about mobile phones and numbers. So that's another angle, right, on top of everything else, right? So
Norma. It's super right. And I want you to guys also know that yes, they will get your phone, they got your IP address, your email address, and by the time they finish with you, you are naked. You have no clothes on. Mm-hmm. That's how much they can go deep if they want to. Mm-hmm. And we might see that on the movies, but that is real game in life. Mm-hmm. Joseph, I don't think the latitude and the longitude is going to give you a specific address, and Norma have made very sure that the data remain private. We can. No, we can. They can, and the police can actually disclose the addresses to anyone other than previous authorization by a judge or the lawyers or whatever. So you can get the area. You can say, well, that happened in, I don't know, Hackney, or in Camden Town, in Peckham, and that's how much close you are going to get to it. But now you know it's in Peckham. Okay, that's better than not knowing where it is.
Yeah, the longitude and latitude, it will give you a range of addresses. It will never pinpoint a specific address. It will give you a range of addresses. So it may cover 10 to 15 households. So you have a high degree of anonymity within that. So none of the longitude and latitude points to number 1 First Avenue, where you could then potentially look and say who lives at number 1 First Avenue. It will cover maybe 1 to 100 First Avenue potentially, because I think that's based on area code, not well, even postcode is wider than that. So I think when it I'll leave it there. I won't give away too much.
Yeah, no need to.
No, we have to be careful with the GDPR.
Yes.
Of course, yeah. So that's why most of the things are scrambled up in a way where they might seem to not make sense, but the underlying data structure is on a solid real-life example that we try to replicate and anonymize in a way where the idea is kept, but still none of the events are actually trackable, findable. But these are real events, real crimes that really occurred. Some of the types of the crimes have been changed, but these are actual things that Norman has been working with. Yes.
I would like to make another little point. It's about this data protection that don't you think because it's the police or the social worker, they can go anywhere and ask for the information. They have to follow a process. They have to issue a formal request. That request will be gathered by the organization that has to provide the data. If it's compliant, they will receive the information. Sometimes that is a hinder for the job and the work of the police, because if we are not happy, we don't pass the information, and somehow that creates a problem. But the idea that you can get all the data because you just want to, if you follow the legal step, yes, and sometimes you just don't get it. So it makes it even more complicated for them to actually do the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Wilco, in the other 2 workshops, we are going to have a look at the data set. In crimes, you have a daytime, as I told you, in crime, you have a daytime. Let me bring it on. A crime date and time is all together. You separate it. I will create my calendar table from it. Okay, so we are going to probably talk about how to create this calendar table in a dynamic way. And then we are going to see how to model the data model, the table, because it's not straightforward. You have 2 main tables, that is crime and crime person. Okay, the crime has 3 tables, calendar, types, and roles. The crime person have peoples and peoples. Okay, so we are going to kind of discuss a little bit how to work with that data set, how to model it. And we have a bidirectional relationship that we cannot avoid, Wilco, and you know that we are being told not to use bidirectional relationship, but in this case necessary to make these 2 tables to work. So there will be quite a lot of that. And then Avis will show how the main visual that I think Norman and I like quite a lot, the network visual and the map visual for this analysis, how to use them.
Yes. So the data and how to set it up, in a few words, will be the main topics of discussion within those workshops. But we will also be answering any of the questions that anyone might have with regards to this project, submissions, and so on. So anything else? Oh, I see Tony is asking a question about how far back does the data go. So Federico, you have the data
yes,
open.
yes, mid-21, or the latest month of 21 to the mid of 2023.
So 2 years.
Kind of.
Roughly,
Yeah.
So year-on-year analysis is also, a possibility, some trends based on data. So it should all be there to make some nice reports and analysis. Anything else from the chat?
I can tell you that Q4 is where more committed crimes are overall. Now, how do you break that down? Okay, because that is 3 months, and then you bring it to a month, and then 2 weeks, and then 2 days. So it's crazy how much you can do about it.
So yes, so seems like there are no new questions coming in from the chat. I think that's pretty much it from our side, guys. So let's leave it as it is. So we have given the people in the chat all the information that we possibly could, provided them with links to information about the workshops, what's going to be included within those workshops, and also a form to give us some feedback. Also, you always have access to Federico and us if you have some more technical questions. Everyone also has access to the free developer licenses as part of the challenge. So next thing that is going to be live is the first workshop on November 23rd. So feel free to sign up for that. Second workshop is going to happen on November 29th. And yes, so let us know if there are any questions that we can help you with. And we'll see you in the next workshop, guys. So thank you. And
I got a question for Norman.
Yeah, go ahead.
Norman, still the different police forces being difficult, not providing what you need. You know what I mean? They carry on the same.
Absolutely. They want all of our information, but they don't want to share none of it.
We see that guy sometimes in television that one organization knows this, the other organization, they don't talk to each other. And that's real life. That happened. That is real life.
Silo, obviously silo working is one of the biggest problems that we have, is that people working in isolation, and typically when there are investigations, you'll find out that someone knew about this but didn't share it with the right person at the right time.
Yes, I have met so many examples of this happening, and then coming now you come with that information. Now everything happened already, but that's how it is. I actually think sometimes that we do to our work, we try to keep for us as much as possible without sharing it. And we don't realize how important for you as an analyst that try to do a job, and that information is actually made your job, not your job. Actually, your analysis better. The analysis is not for Norman, the analysis for the end user.
Absolutely.
Norman will create the report, but the report is for an end user that will benefit from the information. And not having sometimes the information doesn't help at all. I laugh a little bit because I know it happened, and I have a few occasions I wanted to ask, it's still happening, and yes, of course it is.
Very much so.
Okay, so I see some people are already jumping off the call, so seems like we've covered pretty much everything up to the best extent that we could. So thank you everyone for joining the call. Hopefully this was very insightful. Hopefully you're really interested in jumping in the challenge and showing us what you got. So we're all very excited to see what you got. There are going to be some prizes for the participants that showcase the best results, as always. And yes, so feel free to contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to help. If not, then we'll see your submissions, and until then. So thank you, guys.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really excited to see what you guys come back with. Thank you all very much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
Thank you.